Have you ever had to start over again with gardening from scratch? Did it seem overwhelming or was it an easy fix for you? Here I am at our new location in Jasper, Georgia. We're now moved from Zone 9A, which was Madison County, Florida, up to Pickens County, Georgia, and we're in Zone 8A. So many plants that I had growing in the Florida area are hardy to this zone. So I brought some what I call my garden babies with me, and I just wanted to share what I'm doing to get started with my new gardening project. It feels a little overwhelming right now. And let me show you what some of the difficulties are that I see in this small garden plot in my new home. You may have encountered some of these same problems or others, and hearing from you about what you've overcome would be a great benefit. So please drop a comment below. This is a quick overview of my garden plot I have behind my townhouse. While it's nothing like the acre that we had before, I'm getting older. I want to have something that's easy to manage and will host many of the wildflowers that I brought. Here's what I would say inherited when we purchased this townhome. First of all, there's some ground cover. This is Creeping Jenny as a ground cover, and this is Angelina Stonecrop. It is in the sedum family. USDA hardiness zones 5 to 9, low growing. Ground cover thrives in full sun, has chartreuse looking tips. It's a perennial. It's also drought tolerant and it likes well drained soils. It is thriving on top of landscape fabric. This is just chips that have been put down. So it's drier and a good area. The roots just spread out. A very popular border plant, very attractive in mass. It's deer and rabbit resistant, which for this area, I can see why it was planted because we have both deer and rabbit that come through. Several areas and I might say issues that I have to overcome. And a surprise to me, the black landscape fabric that's buried underneath several inches of wood chips. I thought, oh, I can just plant my garden babies here in this area and it'll be easy. But no, you'll see all of the plants that I brought, except for those red pentas in the back, which I purchased just for a little color, they are in pots. Until I can get somebody to help me remove all of this landscaping fabric and this dreadful black alleged mulch, which is really tires that have been ground up and passed off as mulch. Remove all of that from this area, then I really can't do any planting in the ground. I tried. Here are my first attempts. And what I found, I spent the day pulling things back, noticing the ground underneath has not been improved. It's dense clay soil. There was a stump here that was covered with wood chips and a dwarf crepe myrtle. I was trying to put some things in the ground. My first attempts, here is starry rosinweed. That took me an hour to dig because I had to tear out some of this landscaping fabric, add some compost to the soil so I could loosen it up. It was just a dense mat of soil. And I ran into roots from this dwarf tree. I thought, oh, maybe just a few roots, I can cut them out. But everywhere I dug, everywhere I stuck a shovel in, more roots. Here's another place I tried to plant and gave up. After a morning of backbreaking work trying to pull things up, I got these plants removed, known as Purple Heart and also as Wandering Jew. It is a wandering plant because once you've planted it, you'll find that it tends to spread out and grow all over the place. I am not a fan of this plant, as you can tell, but it is popular with some people for the interesting leaves that it has. And it is low growing, drought tolerant, deer resistant. It does not like wet soil. It does not like dense clay. No surprise, the roots were spreading out and growing on top of the landscaping cloth, and this is a full sun plant. Its origin is Mexico. The USDA hardiness zones are 10 and 11. It does not tolerate temperatures below 50. So it in this area, which is zone 8A, it would be considered a annual. Very easy to propagate. You can see it's coming up along the side of our property, and it was planted here earlier this year in the springtime, and you can see how it's spreading out. It does have blooms. Here's a bunch of it, getting at least 6 to 8 hours of full sun over here. And this is one plant that is just spread out. Here it is in the front, and we have systematically clipped the pink blooms that come off the tips because it's attracting the carpenter bees to the front of our property. See where we've done some repair work where they've drilled holes, tunnels to lay eggs, which then become more carpenter bees. A lot of people like them, especially as accent or a logo growing ground cover or edging plant. I don't want them in my garden. I want native wildflowers and frog fruit. In coastal areas, it's popular because it has some salt resistance. Now, when they say deer resistant, keep in mind starving deer will eat most anything, but it's not a preferred plant. I started trying to get these tires remnants out. That was another hour of just picking things up and bringing them over. Disposing them is going to be a big project. I decided there's no way I'm going to be able to get to this project quickly. I'm going to set a plan, and my first step was to pot all of my plants that I brought that I wanted to grow in my new garden and determine what the sun in this area. This area faces east. So I have morning sun until noon, and then as the sun moves, the building shades the back part of this garden bed. The front part remains in the sun until late afternoon. So I've got plenty of sun for things like my echinaceas, purple coneflowers, my red salvias, for my black-eyed Susans, and the coneflowers that I brought, as well as for the coreopsis and other plants. The second part of my plan is to get a landscaper to remove all the black plastic that's down in the soil. In certain areas where I pulled it up, I found there were 2 layers of it. It's got a heavy mulch, and I'm finding that as a senior gardener, it's physically too much for me to try to do. I've seen other people post that they've spent the day and been able to remove things. You just have to be realistic with the energy and the strength that you have. The third part is to dig out the root system. This dwarf tree has a root system that goes everywhere I dug a hole or tried to dig a hole. I hit roots, big, thick root. Originally, I tried to dig up some of the roots using my hand saw, but that got to be too much. So I'm going to have the roots out and the stump out. As you saw underneath, there's damp, heavy clay soil. I'm going to have a soil test with the local cooperative extension here in Pickens County. The final part will be to plan out, once I know what the soil is like and how to improve it, to get the mulch turned in. And again, I'm hoping that the landscapers can help me do that. The bags tend to be, wow, up to 60 pounds. I can't lift a 60-pound bag anymore. I'm restricted with 10 to 20 pounds. So I'll get help improving the soil and then drawing a design for how I want to put in my plants in ground cover. You can see them hiding over there. I have frog fruit that I brought. I did do videos on frog fruit. So if you're interested, you can check those out. And I'm going to put that down as a ground cover and replace the ground cover that's already been here. You might be wondering what my timeline is on all of this. I'm going to leave my transplants thriving in their pots, and I'm going to aim for September and into October to finish the preparation of the soil, the grading, leveling it off after we add the soil improver, and then planting my transplants by October so that their roots can get settled before we have any significant cold. Frequently in this area, we can get a freeze the beginning of December. So I'd like to get things established so that come next spring, I can enjoy seeing new growth coming up in a new garden. If you've had similar experience with this kind of soil or this kind of garden, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a comment below. While it can be daunting to start over, it can also be really interesting, educational, and expand my understanding of gardening. So I'm looking forward to learning and sharing with you as I go along. And if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. Garden Yay! I'll see you again soon.